Hey, everybody. We are on week 3 of the Get More Done and Still Have a Life theme that we're doing this month. It's all part of our Build Your Dream Business quarterly theme as well. So here we go. So today, in week 3, we're going to be talking about how to divide your time so that you can still spend time on your day-to-day work and also still spend time on projects, because after all, projects are the thing that actually help grow your business, right? That's where you're creating the smooth operations that you want. That's where you're creating the new content. That's where you're creating the new courses and the new programs and all of those things, or refining them, right? And so if you don't leave yourself time to work on those projects because you're so wrapped up in your day-to-day work, that you'll never actually make progress on all those things that you want to do. And vice versa, you don't want to end up working so much on your day-to-day, on your projects, that you blow off all your day-to-day work, right? So things like, building your list and building your audience and creating content that's fresh so that you can build that email list, and doing your social media work and all of the marketing that you need to do. You don't want to abandon those efforts because you're on a project. And so today we're going to talk about how you can start dividing your time more effectively. And so if you think about your time as a little pie chart, I want you to imagine it being cut into 4 slices. Just 4 slices, right? So each one is 1/4 of the time. And then I want you to think about each one of those slices as a segment of your week, or your month, let's say. Week or month, whatever way you want to do it, or sprint if you work in 2-week sprints like I do. But think about it as something that you're doing in terms of building a rhythm. Remember, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago, is building that rhythm. And so when you divide your time, you're helping to build that rhythm. And think about it. If your day is wrapped up like something like this, maybe on Mondays, between 8 o'clock in the morning and 10 in the morning, you do your main focus work, your project work, the things that require all that full focus time. And then maybe on Tuesdays, you use that full focus time to do some writing, right? Writing your content, getting your content prepared, that sort of thing. Maybe on Wednesday, you're doing your back to project work, or you're working on your social media for that content, things like that, right? And so if you think about how you run your business, you want to also make sure that you have time for administrative tasks, and you have time for mitigating problems and obstacles that come up. So you want to have some buffer time as you start planning out your week or your sprint or your month. And so what I like to do is I like to leave a buffer in my time, so that in case I did one bad planning, bad estimating, didn't do a good timeline, or I come up with unexpected problems, I have a little bit of buffer time to handle those problems, and I'm not just jam packed with everything that I have to do. So if you think about, working on trying to only schedule about 75% of your time. And actually, I've even heard more like you should only schedule about 40% of your time, because the rest of your week will fill up. But as you're building your business, that may not be something that's realistic. So at least try to get in, plan out 75% of your time, but leave that 25% buffer so that you have time to mitigate those problems that arise, or take on the unexpected. Maybe you get a client call, a surprise client call or something, and you want to be able to handle that, right? So you want to make sure that you have some buffer time in there. When you think about a normal 9 to 5 job or whatever, most employees only put in about 75 to 80% of their workday is spent on actually working on the real work, right? The rest of that time is spent on like social interaction with their colleagues, on administrative tasks like, tracking their time or something like that. And then other types of admin types tasks. And then, taking breaks, socializing, and, having your lunch break, all those different things that come into your day. And, using the restroom, all those kinds of things, right? All that stuff takes time. And so if you have this unrealistic expectation on yourself that you're going to work just constantly, then you're really setting yourself up for things like shiny object syndrome, right? Where you're just like working yourself so hard that you find yourself on your social feeds instead of actually doing the work because you have too many things going and you can't focus your day. And so if you think about your day as like, I'm going to take on like three main things today. One is some project work. One is my basic day-to-day work, content creation, marketing, that kind of stuff. And a third of it is going to be or a fourth of it would be on client work, working on meeting you with your clients or working on the stuff that you're doing for them or whatever it is that you're doing. And then 25% of that is buffer time for anything else that comes up. And if you don't need that buffer time, then you can pull in other tasks that you already have planned. And so the idea here is that you just don't overload your day and that you map out something like, a timeline for your project so that you don't have to do it all now, right? If you have a timeline and you keep track of your project, then it's easier for you to manage the day-to-day. Like, let's say you work on a project today, and then you don't have time to work on it until next week again. Well, that's okay if it's a project that's going to take you 8, 10, 12 hours, or maybe 40 hours, then you just map that out so that you know how long it's going to take you, 3 months or 5 months or 2 months or whatever it is, when you can only dedicate a couple of hours a week to that particular project. That is perfectly okay. What happens is, though, is if we don't keep track of the project and how we're progressing on that project, we're relying solely on our memory, then it's going to take you too long to get your head back into that before you can pick up where you left off and keep going. So it's really important that you have a project tracking system so that you can take some notes before you close out that task for the day and put those notes in there. So the next time you go into that piece of work, you have your notes where you left off, what you were doing, and what you need to do next. That way, you don't have to spend all that time getting your brain caught up and getting your head back into it. You just dive right back in and get to work. And I love that. I mean, that's one of the things I do. If you're using Trello or Jira, I have links in my cards to all my content, all the things that I'm creating, so I can quickly get moving back to those things and get right back on track. It makes it easier for me. It makes it faster for me to get my head back in it. And it helps me to not multitask. We can't really multitask, right? We can do one thing at a time, but it gives me that opportunity where if I'm working and I kind of like, okay, I'm like done now. I've dumped everything out. I've got it all developed. I'm kind of at a point where I need to rest and back off for a minute and think about it. Then it gives me that time and that ability to do that. It gives me that time and ability to step away for a little bit and then come back at it with fresh eyes so that I can get back on track and get going on the things that I was doing. And plus, you kind of do a little bit of a review of what you were doing, and that helps you to refine and improve on things as you go. So, checking for errors and that sort of thing. You're sort of testing as you go, right? And then you can keep making progress on your projects much more easily because everything is at your fingertips. All right. So think about the tasks that you do day to day. Think about the tasks that you do once a week. Think about the tasks that you do once a sprint or once a month or even once a quarter. And, try to map those things out on a calendar and then start looking at how you can build that rhythm. So you're only putting in, you're only scheduling out about 75% of your time, and the rest of it is there for you to manage all the issues that you're having and to do a little planning, just do some planning and make sure that you're planning. And I'm not talking about planning and organizing like redoing your Trello board 50 times. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about really truly planning out your work. Like if you're creating a lead magnet, let's say, well, there's more to it than just one lead magnet. You've got to create an opt-in page. You've got to create a promotion series of social posts and emails and all that stuff. You need to have a welcome email or a delivery email of that free thing. So you got to think about all the things that that you have to build, right? Those deliverables that you have to build. And so when you map things out better, and you actually look at all the details and break it down into all the little things that you have to deliver, it's easier for you to make estimates. Then it's easier for you to create a timeline so that you don't have unrealistic expectations on yourself, and you can fit it in and not abandon all your other work so that you can do this one project. It's not that all or nothing kind of way. We have to keep all the balls in the air, and that. And so that's why you get overwhelmed, right? That's why we get overwhelmed, is because we're trying to keep all the balls in the air. And the problem is that we tend to come at it from the viewpoint of being buried under it, right? We're buried under all the work. That's how we come at it, rather than coming at it from a high point of view, looking down at that work and looking at it as a compartmentalized thing, right? You're working on a lead magnet. You don't want to look at all the tasks like build the lead magnet, build this, build that, blah, blah, blah. Not until you get into that project, right? So now you're like, okay, I'm going to work on this project. You get in, okay, now I need to create the lead magnet. Right now, your brain then is focused on that project, not on all the things that you have to do, just on that one project, right? And when you get into the details of that project, that's when you start looking at the details. That I need a lead magnet. I got to create it. I got to create the emails. I got to create the sales page and the thank you page and all that stuff, right? And so do you see the difference though? Do you see the difference? Like when you look at all the tasks at that finite, that really detailed level, and there's too many of them, it's too much. So you compartmentalize everything into little projects. And now instead of having 20 tasks, you maybe have 4 tasks on your thing for the week, right? Makes it so much less overwhelming. And then when you allocate the time to that project, now you focus on the details. And then when you come out of that, you write yourself some notes, you go on to your next project. Okay? All right, you guys. So I hope that helps you divide that time. And I wanted to tell you also that, one of my secret sauce, I guess, is that I have a really good ability to break things down and break them down into like tasks that you need to do, and understanding what those deliverables are and how to get you there. And I'm really excited because I'm coming up with something, and we'll be releasing it next week. I'm really excited. It's called the Roadmap to Freedom, and you're going to be seeing more about it. If you're not on my email list, get on it now, because we're going to be talking about this roadmap, and I'm super excited about this opportunity for you guys to get your work mapped out for you so that you can start mapping out what your dream business is going to be. And then we will start identifying the projects that you need to do in order to make that dream business happen. And I will help you build out a document so that you have it as sort of your Bible for your business. You go in there and you know exactly what you're doing, so you can stay focused on that big picture, and then go in and do all the projects that you need to do to build out your beautiful dream business, right? And a beautiful dream business isn't just a dream business. You want to build your dream job too. So if you have this imagination of what your day would be like in the future, I want you to think about that. What do you want, in 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Of course, we all want, a calendar full of clients and, all that stuff. But what else do you really want? Do you want to maybe outsource some of the stuff that you're doing now so you don't have all that to do? You can just focus on your clients, focus on creating great content, and then have somebody put it out there for you. What are those things that you want to do, or that you want to have done for you, so that you don't have to do those? Because, let's face it, we can't, we don't have enough time in the day to do everything, especially if a good half of your week is spent with clients. So So think about that. If your calendar gets really full, you're going to be full of all your time is going to be going to the clients, and you may not have as much time to do those other things. So that's one of the things that we help you do in the Scrum Shop is help you get prepared. So if you do explode, you know what to hire, you know who to hire, you know what skill set you need, what skill sets you need, and you know which stuff you're good at, what you're bad at, what you love, what you hate, so that you know exactly what you need to outsource and you can do it quickly. Because I'm telling you, I've had friends and I've had clients who got super busy fast, and then they didn't have they didn't have it everything ready, and they had to hire in a quick hurry, right? And so we want to make sure that you're prepared to do that. And that's one of the things that we do in this roadmap is to help you map out your whole road to your dream business. Okay. All right, you guys. So stay tuned. Don't forget to download this month's workbook. It's at thescrumshop.com/workbooks. There's other free stuff in there you can grab as well. So be sure to get on the list and then check out our offer that's coming out next week. I'm super excited about it. Okay. All right, guys. We'll see you in the comments. Bye.